Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to do start to end how you list your first product on Amazon. Now this will be a very similar method for the UK and the USA, okay? So if you're from the UK or the USA or other countries that sell on Amazon, this will be a similar thing, and I'm going to talk you through exactly how step by step you do this. So go get a cup of tea, go get a cup of coffee. As I say sometimes, pause the video, go get a cup of tea, go get a cup of coffee, or a herbal tea, or whatever you're into, glass of milk, glass of water, whatever you need. Come back here, and then we are going to dive into exactly step by step how you can actually list your product. So obviously, to start with, let's dive straight into this. To start with, what you're going to need is obviously an active Amazon Seller Central account, just like we've got here. And then you're going to go to the top left-hand corner up here, okay? You're going to go over to inventory, and then you're going to go to catalog, and you click add products, and then it will bring you to this page here. And what you need to do if you're adding a product, whether this is a private label product, whether this is your own brand product, whether this is a bundle, whatever you need to do, whether you're just creating an arbitrage product which you're listing, you're creating a new product, you have to click I'm adding a product not sold on Amazon. If your product's not sold on Amazon, you have to click that button there. So that's the first step. The second step is to pick the category which the product's going to go into. So let's pick, in this case, let's pick toys and games, okay? Now, obviously, some categories, you're going to have to get into because they're gated, depending on your account. But let's click toys and games for this example. Now, the category is quite important. So what I would recommend doing if you're not sure on the category is looking at your competitor categories and going into the same category that the majority of your competitors are in. So let's look at this. So let's go up. So let's do all baby and toddler toys there. Activity toys there. And then let's do activity, let's do counting frames, okay? And then once you've clicked on it, it's going to load for a second there. Once you've clicked on it, it's going to bring you through to this page here. And once it brings you through to this page here, this is where you can start entering information. Now, the first thing that you're probably going to notice is the title and then the product ID, okay? Now we've got to start typing in all of this information here, and I always click more attributes up here to open up more attributes so that you can get in all the little details that you need to. Now I'd say this process takes me between 10 minutes to half an hour, depending on how much information needs to go into this listing. Now the first thing you need to do is actually get the product ID here. So if you're in the UK, you're going to need to get an EAN barcode, okay? And if you're in the USA, you're going to need to get a UPC barcode. As far as I'm aware, it's a UPC barcode, but you need to double check that in the US or wherever you are. But it's an EAU barcode for the UK. And how I go about getting these, the first step, every single product needs a product ID identification code to go with it, an EAN barcode in the UK specifically. And I use nationwide barcodes. Now there's no affiliation with it. There's no affiliate relationship with me and a nationwide barcodes. I don't get anything for showing you this. They don't even know I exist. But this is the company that I personally use. Now there is other companies, but I just like being able to spend a little bit of money and buying 100 barcodes, however much they are. You need to find them in here. Order barcodes, other cert barcodes for non-profit UK barcodes. Find the specific barcodes that you're under, EAN quantity or UPC, depending on which country you're in, and then you need to pick the quantity here and then purchase it, and then they can last as long as you need them to last. There is another way of doing it. There's another very well-known company that does this, but I prefer to own the barcodes and not have a time limit on my barcodes rather than like a yearly thing. So I just like to buy a few, and it's much cheaper sometimes because they have sales going on like this, So anyway, you need to get an EAN barcode, and then once you've got the barcode, you'll be able to download that and add that to your spreadsheets on your folders and your Google Drive, collate them, and just so that you've got them for all your new launches. You can then copy your EAN barcode or wherever you are in the country into that section there, scroll down, click the EAN or UPC, depending on which one you need for your specific country. And then that's the first step. Every product has to have that before you list it. The next thing that you need to do is start typing in the information, and the most important thing to do is the title. You need to have your title, which is in correlation with the keywords that you're going after. Now, the first 3 to 5 words in the title are going to be the most effective with the search engine for Amazon that you're going to be showing up for. So you need to make sure you've done your research. Now, obviously, for all of the research that I use, when I'm looking for keywords, obviously I'm going to go ahead and use Cerebro on here. And obviously, I've showed you in previous videos. If you haven't, go back and look at them for finding the most effective keywords. So once you've collated the keywords that you want, the best keywords that are all ranking for your specific product, you want to obviously get them all together, probably in Scribbles and Helium 10 or whatever you use. Okay, you want to collate all of them keywords together, and then once you've collated them all together, you can then add them in order into your title. Now, you want to make the title user friendly for the buyers, but also it needs to be stuffed with keywords. That's the way I do it. So from start to finish, I'll try and get as many keywords into that title as possible, depending on the search volume that I found on Cerebro and stuff like that, depending on the keywords that I've got with the volume and the competition, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to do there. You need to then get the brand in there. So most people that are doing private label or have their own brand, doing things that I do, I've got my own brand. So my brand goes into this box here when I click onto it. Okay? Whatever you're doing, if you're using your own brand, you need to put your brand name in there. If you're not using your own brand, there is ways around it. Okay, there is certain terms that change now and then, like multiple or other, or no brand, or there's certain lettering that you can put in there, or you can put the brand that you're selling for if it's online arbitrage. It changes frequently, but you can have an unregistered brand. But in most cases, most people will register their own brand that can go in there. So your brand name needs to go in there. With manufacturer, you either need to put the manufacturer brand for OA or things like that, or if it's like a bundle, you can put multiple in there in capital letters, and that should work. Or look, if it's your own brand, once again, then you can put your own brand in the manufacturer place. Generally, you can just put the wording that you need. For example, I put multiple in here, and that works if Amazon don't accept it. But yeah, it depends if it's private label or not. There's other information down here. Now, look, you can type in every single little bit of information, and that is the best thing to do. I don't tend to type it in. I tend to do the information that is needed to be done. So that's the information in the red boxes. This is the vital information. You can't not type this information, and you have to type in this information. So I go through and type in all the red boxed information. So obviously next we go over to offer there. Now variations, that's a completely different video. I personally don't do variation listings, so I'm not going to go into that. If you need to create variation listings, type in variation listings onto YouTube, and there's plenty of videos that will show you how to do that. The next thing we're going to do is go over to offer here. So you need to type in if you want a minimum order quantity, then do that. If not, move on from that. Country, region of origin, you can type that in there and obviously scroll down to your specific country. You need to type in your price there. You need to type in if you're going to have a sale when you launch there, which you're probably not. Type in the condition there. It's all quite basic stuff. I don't type in, as I said, pretty much anything that isn't essential, apart from what I'm going to show you later. You need to type in the tax code. You need to figure out if it's 0% tax, 20% tax or not, and then you need to add that into the box there. Is gift wrap available? Then that's up to you and your company. Can it be gift messaged? You need to type, I usually type yes because all my items are gift items, but it's up to you. Max order quantity there. Once again, this stuff I don't really type in. Let's go over to compliance. So you need to do the item weight there. If it's got a battery in, most of this stuff isn't really relevant. Let's go scroll down here. Most of this stuff I don't type in. It depends. If you're doing a private label product that it is required, then you will need to type that stuff in. And then let's go over to images here. So this is where you can type in your images here. So you need to add all of the images that are specific for your product. So I create a lot of my images. I actually edit a lot of them on Canva, which is really great for photography and things like that. But if you don't have Canva, then obviously you're going to be doing professional photography, no doubt, for Canva, which is great. So all of your products can go in here. You simply click one by one on there, and they can add them from your files. All pretty basic, straightforward stuff. This is description here. You need to add your description there, which can sometimes take a bit of time. Key product features can go here. We have click more attributes. Yes, we have. Description here, yeah, as I said, description here, product here, key product description. So you need to type in your bullet points here. I usually like to use a lot, so I use about 5 bullet points. Really describe your product, what's good about it. Obviously, don't do what's bad about it. Well, I'm sure there's nothing bad about it. It's your product. You need to do what's good about it, all the features, the benefits. You need to sell to the customer. This is your part to sell. So you can have usually 5 bullet points there. Good idea is to go into your competition and find out what your competition's writing there, and then do a similar thing and improve it. Next thing you want to do here is go over to your keywords, so your search terms. Now you want to put as many search terms as possible there. Make sure you don't put. I recently had an issue with a listing where I put a search term. It was actually something to do with COVID, and my listing was suppressed, and I actually had to forget about the listing, pull the stock out, and create a new listing to send it into. So be careful with the search terms that you put in there. Anything to do with promising people stuff like COVID prevention products, stuff like that. Be careful with the stuff you put in there. I put my best keywords in here generally. Okay, and that usually does help with the search terms. Platinum keywords put in there as well, target audience. I like to fill this stuff in. And then you've got the more details page over here, and there's usually some quite important information that you need to put over here. So the shipping weight, I don't do that. Package dimensions, so you need to do the package dimensions. What's the dimensions of the package? The product dimensions aren't as important. It's the package dimensions are the ones that you need to put in there for when you come to the shipping plan. So is it a box that you're sending in? Is it an envelope that you're sending in? You need to put them dimensions in there, and then you need to put the weight. So what's the weight once it's in the box? That's the weight that you want to put in there. And then once again, this stuff I don't really do. It depends how deep you want to go into this. If it's a food product, then you need to put the ingredients of the product into this. Okay, so if it's a food product, I would really strongly recommend you put the ingredients on here and put the ingredients on the last image when you're adding your images here, because there's some sellers that seem to have been caught out there. So other than that, that's all the information that I usually put into this stuff. You don't have to type in every single tiny little box, but if you are launching a private label product that you spent thousands of pounds on, you might want to go through and type in every single one. But I'm not going to lie to you, I've got away with doing the basic minimum, doing the size, the weight, and things like that. The ingredients are vital. But other than that, I don't think it really affects things too much. So that's just what I do. I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, but that's what I do. I type in the information that is 100% needed, and then a little bit more, and then I seem to get away with it. A lot of this stuff is only for certain particular products. Manufacturer part number, that wouldn't have. You wouldn't usually have that if you had a private label product. Weed tax value, things like that. So try not to get too overwhelmed by it. I hope that video's helped. You then just click save and finish. And once you've clicked save and finish, it usually takes between 10 to 30 minutes to show up in your inventory. And then it's going to take an additional 12 to 24 hours for the pictures to actually show up on your listing. So don't worry if it takes 12 to 24 hours to do that. If the pictures don't show up on your listing after 12 to 24 hours, I would contact Amazon seller support, probably after 24 hours. So I hope that video's helped. I will see you all in the next video. Try not to get too overwhelmed by it, and just go ahead and create your first one when you're ready. I'll see you in the next video.